All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm so excited. We've got all these folks here. We've got great stuff to cover. So I'm gonna first do a roll call, make sure we have quorum. As you all know, we have been hyper vigilant about making sure we have quorum. So I'm gonna read out everyone's name and we can just on the record, just share president, not, well, obviously the president, not president, is not correct. So. All right, Nina.
I am not present.
I love her. Jenny.
Here.
Brendan. Michelle. Precious. Farrell. Judge Friedman. Naisha.
Here.
Heather.
Here.
Precious Lugo. Suzanne. Diana.
Here.
Meredith.
Here.
Judge Richardson.
Here, Friedman just lost her mom, who was an amazing trailblazer, attorney in New York State, bar leader of the New York State Bar Association. So that's why.
Oh my goodness, thank you for sharing. We know that that's been a journey, so
Yeah.
thank you for sharing with us. Alan.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rosado.
Presente.
Euphemia. Emily. And Jason.
Yeah.
Right, we have our quorum. Yes, I was at the top, yes. Yes. Thank you all for being here. We have so many great things to cover, as you all saw in your packet. So we're just gonna jump right into it. We're gonna start with approval of our draft minutes from the March 13th meeting. First, I'm gonna start with asking members if there are any revisions to the minutes that they would like to share. Give my 10-second delay wait time. Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Got a first and second. Oh, wonderful. Approval. Yeah. Motion to approve. Aye. Any abstentions? Any no's? Now, so let's move to, in terms of some of the reporting out that we need to do. First, I'd like to acknowledge our commissioner being here with us. We are so excited that we are, we established that we need to have these meetings in person and in conversations with the commissioner, it's really important for, to make sure that we have, and not only ongoing sort of dialogue with all of us here, but also that we get an opportunity to kind of also connect with our commissioner, so I wanted to give her.
Thank
Say a
you.
few words.
Happy to be here. I'm glad, that it's working this way. I want to also, I did get a text from Commissioner Dana Harris-Mann, she's watching. We want to welcome her. And it's been half a year already. I can't believe half of 24 is gone, but we have a lot to be proud of, specifically in JJAG and in general in OYJ, for pulling off the conferences which we'll hear about, but also making youth in New York State a priority. And I hope that you'll hear about all of that today, but I hope that you've also seen that in the news as we've been able to, announce initiatives and kind of put the issue of youth at the top of the agenda. So I don't have a formal report today because I just drove up this morning. But I'm happy to be here, and I think that, what's left of the year, with the next 6 months, we will gear up to kind of make a splash, next year. That's kind of what we are this time of the year. But we do have, I don't have talking points, and I don't know the number, but we have a historic level of funds for summer youth employment, and we targeted communities where we have the most density and, kind of attract our snug communities and other places where we're trying to keep the stability we have there. We had crime is at an all-time low in most places outside of the city. And so there's a lot to be hopeful for. But, summer's always scary. And so that's what we're focused on. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Also, yeah, and thank you for mentioning our new CFS Commissioner. Like, we're very much excited. I know that's been a position that we're looking forward in terms of, so we're excited about that. As already mentioned, future meetings will be held in person. I think we are 4 years past our COVID time, and I think we're at a different place. And we're going back to to this expectation around JJAC meetings being in person. We have a great deal of things to not only launch for this year in regards to our strategic plan, but also as we are looking forward to the implementation work that happens around those pieces, that it's really going to necessitate that we have as many in-person opportunities to really talk through the dynamics of how all of this stuff is going to get launched throughout the state. The other piece is reminding us that we need to have quorum, right? We're going to keep pushing. We're going to try different strategies for quorum. We've had a variety of meetings to kind of strategize and support everyone here in terms of the ways in which they can, however we can support to make sure that everyone can be in attendance so that we can ensure that we have a quorum. And finally, one of the things that we wanted to discuss was in terms of some of our subcommittees, right? There's been two main committees that have really been in existence for JAG. One is the exec committee. That's the exec committee. Primarily the role's been in terms of walking through or building out the agenda and walking through what's on the agenda, making adjustments along the way, getting a lot of feedback from the exec committee, and as well as any small types of grants that needed to have some level of approval that were, I think, below 50,000. But those were some of the actions the exec committee took part in. That subcommittee has dwindled in a great deal of the years. I think particularly since COVID, it has really we haven't been able to kind of really wrangle it back. And the intention is for us to have myself and DCGA staff to have conversations with members here on the JAG, and as well as that there are new members that are being proposed for the JAG to look at inviting them to be part of the executive, as well as the other subcommittee has been the grants working group. And the grants working group, the intention around that is for that to be the brain trust that really wrestles through the development of the RFPs based on what the JAG decides are some of the priorities. And obviously, those priorities are now existing in our strategic plan, which we will be moving towards approving today. The grants working group is a pivotal group. But similar to the exec committee, has also been a committee that has also suffered in terms of attendance. And so we are looking to rebuild that team, right? Such that we can, especially given as you all got an opportunity to kind of look at all of the documents, there's a lot that we are going to be putting out there, which means that there's going to be a lot that we want to have our fingers on and being able to see, and to have as many of the brain trust that's sitting here at the JAG to really weigh in on it. Particularly the grants working group to kind of, I see the grants working group as an opportunity for folks to kind of suss out like the good stuff and the bad stuff and make sure that it's all good. So when it comes to the JAG for any points of approval, it's already been really chewed on and digested and, and made to be what it's reflective of our strategic plan. So we're also going to be seeking out in terms of asking for membership for the grants working group. One of the things that I've been mindful of, and I think it's happened over the years, is that some folks have been on both. And we want to minimize folks feeling there's too many committees. I don't know about y'all, but there's times where I don't know how I get wrapped up into some committees. And that could be, and we all, since everybody's already got full-time jobs, this volunteerism and, can't be full-time as well. So we also want to manage the making sure that anyone, whoever volunteers does not feel that they're overwhelmed by being two subcommittees. So, so that's gonna be the intention, over the next month, is reaching out to you all and asking for your participation in those subcommittees. So just keep that in mind as you hear from us, to jump right in. You know, it's gonna be like you're, you know, jumping onto a softball team and you're being, you know, pulled in from the minors to say like, yes, you're joining that team, all right? I'm trying to make it as exciting as possible. So let's move to some of the items that we need to, that we are making approvals around today. The actionable items. So first, let's start with our, well, actually, I paused. Any questions around the subcommittees? I'm sorry. We've worked on my shtick, so I'm like, forgot I might need to pause here. Any questions, reactions, thoughts around the subcommittees? Any points of expansion that we should think about in terms of these subcommittees? They should be doing that. I'm wondering why can't. Yes.
How often are the subcommittees meeting? What's the expectation?
The working grants committee meets a little bit more often than the exec committee. I think the exec committee, I think we meet maybe twice in between, I should say, twice in between our meetings. The working grants group maybe meets 3 times, or historically has met about 3 times, especially when we have items to, you know, RFP drafts that we are working on, or weighing in with ECJS in terms of reviewing proposals, right? So that's the sort of, in terms of the amount of meetings.
Those meetings, are they virtual?
Yes,
Okay.
all virtual. Yes, now that's another great question. And we try to plan out these subcommittee meetings months in advance. So it's, if you so graciously volunteer to be part of it, we put them out weeks in advance. So if for some reason you can't do that time, we try to reconfigure things, but we try to make sure that folks have plenty of lead time to say yes. Any other questions, thoughts, or reactions? So let's look at a first actionable item. The approval of the 2023 JAG annual report. I know you all have been anxious to have a discussion about this JAG report, and it's been, I know it's sat right next to my People magazine. It's 23 with them first. But no, actually, I didn't read it. I tend to have a habit of reading. Any discussion that any discussions folks have in
Or you can
reviewing?
tell us about one of them.
I will definitely say I really appreciated reading about one of the core tenets around OJGDP is in particular is around racial equity work, and seeing it all in one place. You know, because I remember the stuff we approved, but just seeing it in one place sort of really solidified how much we have really put that as in a very intentional, not just a lens, but a set of action work. And I was heartened by seeing that existing in this report in one place.
I think it's great to see when we often do a lot of work. I get to see it either systemic or current. When I took a look at this report, I can see how we able to touch both at the same time, and I can feel that systemic changes needed, but also we need to and one minor change, I will let change. On this, not that matters a lot, but if we can, that is really out of thing.
Okay.
But this is awesome.
And I appreciate you mentioning because that's always been a tension. It's like, You know, 'cause we can do direct service work, but then we gotta make sure that the system knows that it has to be different. Quick comments. I know folks are kind of perusing now. Give y'all another minute to just. Okay, so, there's no other discussion points around the report. Can I get a motion to approve the 2023 JAG annual report? Thank you, I got it first. Bring it a second. Diana? All in favor? Say aye or raise your hand. Any abstentions? No. All right. The 2023 annual report for the JAG is approved. Now we're going to move to our amazing 3-year strategic action plan. Again, I want to give an opportunity for us to have some discussion in terms of the plan. I'll share that. One of the things I'm glad that we arrived at is compared to all of the, at least for me, the last 14 years of strategic plans I have seen, this is the most streamlined and very succinct and just 3-4 things. That's all we're doing, right? That I really appreciate that as a JAG, we arrived at this place. Truly simple line.
And I
Yes.
just want to make note that my agency, one of my agencies is the National Center on Sexual Behavior Abuse, not sexualized.
Oh,
I also wanted to say, I don't know if it's really matter for that, but it makes me feel a little bit less than people when I see these members below and then everybody else up there with a title not looked at. So,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jane.
but other than that, I think the GI did such a great job with having conversations with us and putting it together what we talked into what is here. So just going through everything with us, you know. So it truly matters.
Maybe make it alphabetical and then with an asterisk, indicate those are youth members.
It's a great idea.
know that this is the right place to do it, but I'm just looking at the previous three-year plans, and I'm thinking about where we were really successful at meeting some of these goals, and where we actually are still fighting the fight. And I think that in some document, somewhere, again, I don't know where, I think it might be really, even if it's just for us, worthwhile to sort of, where we landed with some of the, like the statewide alignment, we spent a lot of work on that, and that was very successful. The early diversion, we did an amazing job. All even still, if you look at the numbers, we're still doing better than we were in 2011. And narrowing the front door, I just feel like there's a lot of things that actually we succeeded collectively, even if it's not just the JJAG, but sort of all the agencies that came together to do the work. Just a thought, and just, this is what we worked on.
Yeah.
No outcomes.
I think you can do it right after this table, at like a 40 description, one paragraph. Or, you know, because, you know, like I think, right, it doesn't work, the way that this part we did. But it was, if, I do think we can read the timeline. I mean, the table, I think we'll need summary of it. What was accomplished?
You know, I think one of the things that you're also bringing up, and Michelle, is the, not only sort of like what was accomplished, because I'm sure we can pull it out some of these annual reports.
Yeah.
Say highlight there. But it's percolating the question for me, because some of these, you're right, as I think about them, I'm thinking about the intention of some of this work was to seed some system or direct service change work. And my wondering is how that seed has grown as a result of it, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, JAG has dollars, but not significant, but enough to just give a couple of seeds.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to, especially as we move forward around this new strategic direction that I think is builds on this other stuff. How do we leverage this sort of statewide alignment? How does that, what are we doing when we're talking about the hubs? How do we draw on that statewide alignment as supporting the expansion around those hubs?
Yeah, continue to focus on that alignment, because I think when, you know, the agencies and including state ed and supports are all pulling in the same direction, big change has happened. Working with a very clear statewide vision, it also makes it much easier for the counties to understand where we're going. Because they have blended, they have funding from all over the place, right? Not just from OCFS or DCJS or OMH, right? So when we all say this is the direction you need to go in, I think it just makes it much easier for them. Well, we've been yelled at in the past for not being aligned.
Right. And especially, you know, I think thinking about, so to your point, like a great example is the regional teams. You know, I don't think we would be at a place to sort of push out the hubs if we hadn't done that regional work, right? Because the regional work, we learned a great deal in terms of places where things thrived, and then other places where it just didn't, you know, for a variety of reasons. But helped us to understand what role JAG played. And we know that the work has to happen much more locally. There has to be rated sort of endeavors that are intentional. And some of, I think that, for example, the statewide alignment, I think, can play a significant role in ensuring that happens. People are talking to people that they historically have not talked to, even though they're serving the same population.
And that the state is also talking to each other too, not just them locally, we're modeling.
Almost like we be able to show like, let it be.
Yeah.
See,
Yes.
let it be. That's how the strategic plan And the yearly report should be able to tie in, like almost like, well, I'm not saying create a super document, but like. More like. Please, for everybody have to do, well, like, you know, something to be able to just. Draw the lines, yeah. Each other, and be able to take that to be able to kind of. Show everybody that, yes, this is what. Not only accomplished our strategic plan.
And there may be a way of doing it as we roll out this story around the hubs, the RFPs themselves, is to, so that folks understand that this is the next generation of this work that has been transpiring. And that particularly that they can leverage all this previous work, into sort of building up these hubs. So they know they're not on their own, right? They're not. The system work has been going on for many years. Other thoughts around the strategic plan?
I like the way it's laid out. The old, where the strategic plan is just get, which actually is like. A real document.
Right. Right, strategic plan that's less than 10 pages. Right, there are no other comments around strategic action plan. Can I get a motion to approve this 3-year strategic action plan, knowing that we're gonna make these changes in terms of the team, in terms of the board, in terms of reconfiguring that page to make sure it's truly reflective of the representation, right, of this group. Right. In a second, all right. All in favor of approving our 24 to 26 big action plan? Raise your hand. Yes. Any abstentions? Any no's? And our strategic plan is approved. Yay. And it's only halfway into 2024. It's okay. It's actually, we're good.
And it's-
We're ahead of.
Something I
Yeah.
know that, for a long time, have said, can you do this? Can you do this? Well, you just approved it and the solicitation is out and it's due August 5th. So we are currently working on this for your application and you just approved your plan.
I know, right?
Perfect.
We're just like, we're making it work. Thank you all so much for, the heavy lift that really, DCJS folks, YJI played in really getting us to this strategic action plan. Folks weighing in, coming in for the strategic plan sessions that were held at New Albany. And this is exciting. You're right. And to know that we've got stuff to work on now to kind of move forward is exciting. So with that being said, it's like, okay, so I guess we got to start with putting this stuff to action. So our next item is called unfinished business.
We're so proud of what we finished.
And I'm like, yeah, because I saw that yesterday. I was like, okay. So, Maura. Yeah, that's good. I hear that in mafia movies.
So yes, I'm gonna talk about again, the fun part, but not a lot of changes from the last board meeting, proposals. Since then, so the current balance, overall balance is 6.4 million. We have about 1.2 million available for state share and 5.2 available for local. And changes from last time were just, we added another year of funding for the R&D work and the compliance monitoring work for MCMC. And, some other contracts we have closed out and there are some unspent balances there. That totals. And as Trista mentioned, the solicitation for the 2024 Title II is out right now. And so we're working feverishly, and then it's due August 5th. So that'll give us about another 2 million. We don't know the award amount until we get the award in October. So whenever we apply, we do a budget based on last year's award amount. So we'll be doing a budget that will $2.3 million. And once they give us the award in October, then we do a budget amendment. See what the actual award amount is, but I don't think we anticipate it being much different. I expect we can make 2.6. The lowest was 2.8 now. You're around there. One thing to point out too, you might notice that some of the money expires this year on September 30th. We get the requesting extensions on those. So the first time I request one, and the first time extensions you can. And Krista and her team will give you a bunch of proposals that we're looking to spend down this money, and with 2024 will be about 7.2 million.
Maura, out of curiosity, you may not know the answer to this, but I think it may have been brought up at one of our previous meetings. You know, being mindful of, and may be able to help us historically around the timing, because in terms of notification in October, how consistent has OJJP been around that October notification? I'm just thinking about it in relation to being a presidential cycle this year. So I'm trying to be mindful of that reality, you know, and plus it may be because I'm watching way too much John Oliver, so.
No, I mean, it's usually around, they never vary much from September 30th, October 1st. They went pretty consistent.
Any questions folks have? The status update in terms of our federal funding? All right. So let's go, so that's now finished business. Let's talk new business.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question, just thinking forward, thinking back, and then thinking forward to potential unwanted consequences. The issue that hung us up 3 years ago, 4 years ago, has that been resolved to our knowledge?
Yeah, the,
One of the court
That's
cases.
right.
yeah, I mean, that's been resolved, as of now, but
They could come back
if he
again.
gets elected again,
Yeah.
who knows what stipulations they put up.
No, I mean, there was a problem with like there was a specific problem that they hung us up on.
Sanctuary cities,
Yeah, the
What?
sanctuary
Sanctuary
cities.
cities.
No, but it was a sight and sound separation issue. Before the sanctuary cities, there was a very specific questionable, that's what they were using. I'm just wondering going forward, whether we need to do, a different kind of look at making sure that all of those issues were resolved. Do you remember it was like one police lockup or something that they jammed us
That
up?
was on an audit.
That was on an audit, not on a compliance thing,
Okay.
and it was resolved, it was around a definitional difference from the state and the feds. SDOC is not here, but their legal department, oh, sorry, Alan. He's also not present. Sorry, Alan, but Keith and your legal team worked it out, with the results of that audit, but New York State has never had a sight and sound violation. Or a jail removal violation. There was a potential around when raise the age went into effective capacity, as you know, Nina, but with the, and I know that still exists, but
Yes,
with
it
the, official, interest of justice hearing process, we are technically not in violation. We can argue or discuss the merits of even those being appropriate, but federally and legally we're okay.
Great, that was it, thank you.
That was-
Sorry, Alan, I know, I took your job, I just.
So that is finished business now. So we're gonna go, let's go to new business. Yes, we've got a lot of stuff for us to kind of walk through. So I'll start by saying, in terms of these funding proposals, we worked with some of the members of folks that were able to, of our grants working group, to get them together, to look at drafts of some of these components. DCGI's team worked diligently, as well as YJI at various junctures, to really start putting together these funding proposals that are in line with what we stated here in strategic action plan, as well as going back to several exercises that we did during our strategic action planning process to make sure that we were staying true to the spirit of what we had really envisioned around this. And so the drafts that you all have in front of you are reflective of all of that work. And so we're going to walk through each one of them, a set of proposals. And we have various members of the team that are going to provide overview around these funding proposals. I think, Tom, you're first. Yes, sir, you were looking at me. So, all right, so the youth justice hubs.
Yes, so as Eddie mentioned, the strategic action plan is kind of what drove all of these proposals. The transformative youth justice hubs being the big ticket item that was outlined in the strategic action plan. So the idea is to do through RFP a funding amount of $4 million to establish the hubs, 2 rural and 2 urban. They match up to, the goals of the plan. During the process, we took a look at some of the other hubs that are out there nationally and really internationally. So we took a look at one in the Chicago area on community restorative justice hubs. There's one in Newark, New Jersey, and then in the UK, we've done some preliminary looking at those. The idea is, as we develop the RFP, we'll dig deeper into those as well. Activities of the hubs could include multiple aspects: building relationships with youth, adults, and families, issuing guidance and resources that's relevant to youth justice, participation in vocational educational programming. And the idea is that they'll work very closely with the new YFAC Center, which is the next proposal, to envision, create, and implement innovative learning communities, best practices, and resources. So that's in a nutshell what it is. Again, the RFP will be developed over the next few months that will dig deep into the details of what we would expect those hubs to do.
Tom, I just have a couple questions, and this is just so I can wrap my own head around it, because I love the concept, but I'm just having a hard time with operationalization. So, do we have a requirement for, when we say regional, are they going to be required to cover a full region, or can they propose their own catchment areas? Like, going to be 2 counties? Does it have to be an actual DCGS region?
Yeah, I don't think that is specifically outlined in the plan,
Okay.
at least the way I was reading it, and I could be wrong, is the urban ones would be specific to certain cities, probably the city.
And parts of a city, yeah.
And the rural ones, I would imagine, would be a county. I think the idea is to do a deep dive and,
Okay, no, that's helpful, because when you say regional, I think large, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
the operationalization of these activities become more complicated in my head.
Yeah.
So that is actually more reasonable from my perspective. That makes much more sense. Thank you.
And I think part of it was
part of the strategic plan was to look at, equity in both urban and rural places, not just, it was more geography as well, because I think sometimes we don't look at the geography of it, and I think some of the lessons learned from the RYJTs were that they were covering these big regions, and what you saw was a lot of the urban places were kind of leaving out the rural places, so we wanted to make sure that we were able to give the rural places exactly what they need without having to compete with some of the urban places in these larger regions.
Absolutely, that makes total sense. And just again, the duration of the award would be how long? Is it 3 years?
I think it would be tied into the strategic action plan, so it would, 3 years, 2024 through 26 would be the idea.
And then-
revisit it.
Are we gonna require them to do some initial kind of needs assessment or systems mapping to inform? I guess,
Yeah,
part of their-
I think that's where the YFAC Center will kind of come into play. Because I think the intent is for the center and the hubs to be working closely together.
So the center would provide them technical assistance on how they might create a construct in which to
Yeah,
facilitate their identified goals through data and through needs assessment.
yes.
Okay. It's kind of coming together, that's helpful, that is coming together.
Right.
I like it, pieces are fitting in my brain, so that's, thank you.
Good. Part of the idea is recognizing that there's gonna be the greatest levels of expertise that lives in these hubs is a close understanding of what community needs are, right? And
Absolutely.
the expertise that are living in these communities, but may not necessarily have, and at least I see it in a great deal on the education side and in the nonprofit space, there's always a struggle around, what do we measure? How do we do a needs assessment, And there's, that's an expertise that is not always readily available and doesn't always get funded,
Absolutely.
right? So. So the YFACs being operating as a sort of a graded partner,
Yeah,
right, with these hubs is gonna be critical to help support their work.
agreed, yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Have we looked at the NEOM? I went straight to the web and looked at the neighborhood opportunity networks that the New York City Corporation.
Yes, that's what.
It feels very
Yes.
aligned.
That they cancel. They cancel.
Huh?
They don't know.
They canceled the mentoring.
We are still there.
They're excellent.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind.
Yeah.
The idea beyond youth on probation for everyone.
Yeah. As another sort of, another example that could be provided to sort of these potential hubs. Because part of it is they're gonna have to also conceptualize what is the components of it. I think you're right, perhaps having neon as another example.
Or the family opportunity centers in the city also. The ACS stood up. Are it's more family focused.
Right.
than-
Kids are part of families.
What we can do to give access to the kids who have not had, the siblings and others who have not had that contact with law enforcement yet, but they're in a household with someone who's affected, so you can go in there and do preventive work, so I think that's great. And also coping, right, because if you have a sibling who's either, detained or in the system, it's affecting the whole family.
My only thing with this, I love all this, just I wonder the objectivism of the way too general, and I wonder, we talk about the insight that we have. This is definitely a priority, but I wonder what will be the outcome. Yeah, I just see it that it's too general, and I wonder how we're going to connect the data and the actual, I know $1 million for 3 years is not a lot, but it's also a lot. So just.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the idea of the next steps is developing that RFP with specifics in there and. No, but that's the idea is to develop those details as we develop the RFP and as we kind of match the YFAC Center with the hubs. Those details will be worked out.
Quick question, do we have, like areas that we're looking into Because a lot of things that's in here, and a lot of people mentioned that like they want to work really closely together. But for New York State, it's a big state, so if we put one all the way like Western New York and the other one's in like New York City, how are we planning to like intertwine them all together?
Yeah, and I think again, that's where the LIFAC Center will come in to kind of be that central hub. But we can also build language into the RFP that requires that there's a certain level of partnership that exists in the locality that we develop the hubs in. So we want to have people that are already a little bit synergized so that it kind of connects together, and that'll probably be part of, what we require in the RFP.
I think part of what I hear you describing is 4 hubs, how do they get to talk to each other?
Yeah, how do they get to talk to each other and then?
And I'm wondering if we take on that responsibility in terms of convening them.
Yeah.
Or explaining the RFP.
And then the RFP,
Yes.
are we being intentional with like pushing it out to, outside of just like immediate New York City type of area?
Yeah, but go ahead.
I think we saw that they're going to have a TA provider. I think this is part of the deliverables that the TA provider should be doing. I think I was mentioned earlier, like we are the TA provider for one of the OUDP's work. And we have 37 jurisdictions from 21 states. And we bring them together once a year, but also we have work meetings and then we have learning where we actually interact with each other. It's really working well because some others are more dense than others and they share resources. So I really think that this should be part of whoever's going to be the TA provider.
Yeah, Giza, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think that I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to the last point bullet on page 2. In collaboration with the center, this helps to engage and create and implementing a daily plan community with best practices and resources. So I believe this was designed exactly to provide this space where one, you institutionalize knowledge, and two, we build a place where people can exchange ideas and go back.
I really like to I just want to say that we did this at the Office of Mental Health when we rolled out a whole new program area. It was called Youth Assertive Community Treatment Programs. And we based it on the adult model, but we changed it a lot to be kids-based, and it was based on an evidence-based approach. So we don't have any evidence-based for the youth part. So we concurrently funded a youth act technical assistance center who did exactly what you're saying. They do the training, they do the TA, they do the data collection, they do the learning community meetings, they do the role-specific conversations. And it's been really successful because the teams have felt like they have, it creates a little bit of standardization, but also a capacity to individualize to what their needs are. And it's been good for us because we have also a very good handle on how each of the teams are doing. So I just want to say, I really like this connected approach, because I think it's going to really help us a lot to bring the teams along effectively and have more oversight than, let's say, DCGS or JJAG could really levy to support this process.
Did the teams train together under the technical assistance?
Yes, they have role-specific trainings and they have team training. So they meet together as their role within the team, and they meet as teams together.
I think
And then
that
they
would be
regional.
the hubs team are trained together, so they all know each other.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's lots of different ways you can go about it, out there, but I think it's a great plan, and we've found a lot of success with that, and the teams have felt like somebody has our back. So I feel like they feel more empowered to feel equipped to do a yeoman's job, which I think that this is asking them to do with these hubs.
Well, we'll reach out to get some more information on that as well.
Yeah, I'm more happy to help, and I'm happy to help anyway. But I just wanted to say we use this kind of model, and it's been very successful. That helps.
There's dancing on the hubs. This is good stuff. I love that we're now seeing it all together and wanting to really create the threads
Yeah.
around it.
I would also say, I would love for the however the information gets back to us, whether it be through DCGS or through the WiFAX. I'm not wedded to anything, but as over the 3 years, what would be great to hear is, regular kind of status updates about these hubs and how they're functioning, what their needs are. Because I think that there are a number of members of the committee who can really help to identify what those resources may be out there that they're not aware of, that could help them in meeting their goals. So I would also say use us in supporting the work as well, in addition to the WiFAX. We're happy to, it's good.
No, I agree. I think there has to be, we have to take that responsibility on.
Yeah, because I want to make sure that they're connected to the local mental health efforts that are going on, and that my mental health people know about them, which I will tell them, but, it should be, I'm happy to help make those connections.
Can I get a motion to approve the Transformative Youth Justice Hubs? Got one, I got two. All in favor, please raise your hands. See all. Oh, right. The Transformative Youth Justice Hubs are approved. Let's go to our next great new business is the Youth, Family and Community Towards Success, aka WiFAX Center. I think that is
Okay, yeah, so this is sort of a partner component to the hubs. It would be done through the YJI to build this new WiFAX center. The center would provide two main functions. It would coordinate data measurement, gathering, and dissemination with and for the hubs. And in line with the third priority, it would gather and disseminate data on prevention and progress. Those are the two main components. It would start out, I believe, by hiring a coordinator to kind of begin the process of structuring everything, and then it would be linked in with the development RFP for the hubs themselves, and closely aligned with those hubs as things begin to roll out. The idea is really not to recreate data collection, but it's to take the data collection and synthesize it, organize it, help communities utilize it in kind of driving change, and a qualitative component that I think has been somewhat lacking in many areas of the state. So really those things together would help WiFAX leverage the work of those hubs and kind of drive a change. That's the general area, and the request is for $1.5 million to create a new WiFAX center within the YJ. 3 years. Okay.
discussion.
We're able to do, I don't know, if it's funny, but you're able to do that, is to add these funds to YJI and expand their scope without needing to procure, so we can know that it's YJI.
Governmental.
It's government to government, yeah, and we have our experts back here. Back table, that might be better.
That question was a pleasant surprise, by the way, like, that's the aspect that I'm trying to convey here. Okay.
Use a, I'm gonna do this for student, for state, so.
Lots of them.
One of the things I'm so excited about a center like this is it takes what unfortunately happens in endeavors like hubs is that the data collection that runs alongside to know, well, did we have an impact? And how do we go after more dollars to deepen and extend the work? Usually happens several years into an endeavor. And to kind of have something that is running alongside and to be a close, sibling, cousin that hangs out with the hubs from jump is so exciting. And it takes away not the response, but just the pressure of what is already going to be an endeavor for these hubs to kind of sort of just connect themselves, to have a partner who's going to take this quick piece of it to kind of help them along. I think is so critical. So I'm excited by the fact that we landed as this being part of our program.
I'm a very biased person for the YJ. This feels, this is literally biased to that, right? Is to be able to support this level of work. And I'm very excited to see that we're not bifurcating the work, that it's just building up. So it will only make it stronger. So I'm totally support.
Nina, the thought that I had was that this express issue of the compartmentalization of the youth justice data was problematic for decision-making and planning around how best to divert or serve kids in the justice systems. And was the #1 charge of the Partners for Youth Justice Committee, right? So I'm envisioning this being informative to work not only for these hubs, but for the state and for our partners to inform how we can better look at data maybe statewide and have other communities do the same to impact our planning purposes.
Yeah,
Get in on the ground floor for getting kids where they're supposed to be starting from day one.
yeah, concretizes.
Yeah,
that work,
absolutely.
Very, very specific.
Exactly.
I think it's great.
I'm excited about that being on that committee as well.
Well, one of the things we talked about when we were developing this plan was how do we get the information back to everybody else, right?
Exactly.
How do we get people, because when YJI put up all those statistics, we were all like, wow, we didn't, you know, we were like, how do we get this back to the community so that they can understand? And I think this is a perfect way to do that.
The dots are connecting. It's very exciting.
Especially around the exact same population that all these institutions kind of interface with, but yet we all have different measures. I remember doing an endeavor like this in New York City where having ACS, DOE, probation, another at the table, and everybody had a different measure of what was a youth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what? It's like, okay, let's start from scratch. Okay, you know, and really trying to create those graded, and I was only doing it as a volunteer researcher to kind of help them grade this together, but but you realize how much support is needed to kind of get there.
Right.
And to have endeavor, a group that is like, no, that's your job. All of this stuff together.
Well, and the other thing I'm excited about is like just breaking the myths, right? There's a lot of like myths out there about what kids nowadays are getting involved in or how bad, the system is in regards to, the violence in youth or whatever. But the data doesn't necessarily bear that out. And I think that, right, and I think that empowering localities to really have the data to be able to combat that, even at the ground level, would be really helpful in some, maybe averting some policies that aren't really the best interest of what we know to be true for young people.
And being somebody who worked in a silo because we didn't have a choice with a rural county, joining a technical assistance team, when we did that, we were able to just see what everybody else was doing and learn from that, which a lot of people don't have access to that kind of assistance.
Right. Yeah. There's so much around especially, I know in education right now, leaders are working from the vantage point of constructing more punitive habits of discipline predicated on notions of the kids they're off because of COVID. And if I hear that one more time, it's just, but so I've gotten to the point where, they're past, and I just ask, how many kids are we talking about? It's like, well, and they can name them. And I said, I'm sorry, you're making these large scale policy shifts as a result of 5 kids, 6 kids. And not being able to demonstrate, well, how have you shifted the system to help support? Because those 6 kids are needing something else, right? But to kind of, I think having
Decisions.
Right.
As a state of 5 kids.
right, yeah,
It's
it's tough, right? And all the kids are needing is just support.
I want to say that I have seen a lot of TA providers where they provide also open to the public. And when I read this, which it is like about the support where our investment is going to go, but I was wondering if somehow, maybe not now, but we take into consideration of creating the TA and expanding the funding more, so other organizations, community-based in New York State can request TA. Because I feel like, the people that are going to apply to this 1 million award is gonna be people that are already well established, well supported, and that can do the work, right? Which is what we need, but also I don't know, what was the data, like there were about 40,000 organizations in New York State that provide services. And it's always the same ones, and it's okay, but I'm just wondering, there is some data already out there, evaluations for organizations, but there are so many of them that don't have, and we are not able to get in touch with them because there is no show me the proof that you have been doing this. And I'm not saying to extend, it would be
Right,
great if we could add more money, and it would be better if we can actually provide more support, not to just get for ones that we're going to pay.
That's a great point. I think there's, in some ways, you're bringing up the resource of the technical strategy can itself be an extension that could, and it could be in the next iteration of the Wi-Fi.
Because, again, like we are the TA provider, we are required to only provide to 27 jurisdictions, but we have 10 others that we chose to do, based on capacity, funding, and all of those things. But I mean, just, again, like, how do we touch those that are not in the spotlight, don't have this?
Choosing it, your hand up.
So it's absolutely right. If we do this right, this piece of data literacy is where we expand to places beyond the hubs.
And training and tools to shift it over to YJI. University.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the LifeVax data center? First and second. All in favor, please raise your hand. I can go reading everybody. Thank you all. We have approved our LifeVax data center. Next item is the repurposing of the previously approved funded JJAG funding for youth members. For those who may not remember, we had approved a pot of money to help support the youth members of the JAG to convene to identify some key priority areas that they consider as relevant for particular sort of, whether it's direct service or whether it's planning work or whether it's training work. Trish gonna, we've been talking about sort of how do we repurpose some of those dollars to sort of expand and deepen, still staying true with really tapping into the expertise of our youth members within the JAG. So Trista.
Sure. Yes, so thanks, Eddie, you've set that up well. So again, this was, I think, pre-COVID or maybe like right as COVID was starting. The JAG had approved $75,000 to be set aside to establish the Youth Action Committee, the YAC. Nobody likes an acronym.
Still does.
I charge the young people with creating a new name. But for a variety of reasons, there was challenges in getting that off the ground. The original intent with that was to, one, support professional development and mentoring support for the youth JAG members, as well as to set aside a small pot of dollars for them to identify completely youth-led, youth-developed initiative or program. And they were going to decide what that looked like. And then also previously, the JAG had approved $125,000 for what we had called at the time a Healing the Practitioner series, learning series. And the intent with that was that in the height of COVID, right, everybody was focusing on young people, but then we didn't feel like folks didn't feel like there was a lot of emphasis on the workers. Now, in our research and looking at things, we do believe that it shifted over time. We think there's a lot of resources within that. So and it felt kind of like it might be duplicative other than pointing to other resources that were already out there and available. And so we're proposing taking that original $75,000 commitment for the YAC. I don't keep saying YAC, so somebody changes the name. And that $125,000 that was initially approved for that learning series and combining them and providing a community-based organization to provide support and growth for the young people. And so we say that for a variety of reasons. As much as we try really hard to be youth-led and support our young people, we're also still government. And so sometimes that means it's not as easily and we're not as nimble when it comes to being able to support the young people and getting them timely payments for their stipends. I know that hotels do weird things to us all the time. And so oftentimes like I'm running to Jason and like swiping a credit card if I happen to be there for him. So we wanted to, and we're following the lead of other states. So other states have gone this route as well to be able to provide that support to young members, just in their leadership development and support, but also in this idea for them to be able to come up with youth-led initiatives, ideas, and pitch those ideas to the JAG for future funding and approval. So the proposal on the table for you all, and it is a priority. Investing in young people is a priority, and the recently adopted 3-year strategic plan would be to approve. We would likely have to go out to RFP because of the dollar amount, but to approve an RFP for a community-based organization to be able to provide that support that is not a government entity, that has a little bit more flexibility and can do different things, like probably cash out or something. I don't know. I'm also not cool. I don't have like mobile payment device things. So. But that's kind of, that's the proposal. And so I also just want to say within that, they will work to codify sort of this YAC to the JAG as a subcommittee to the JAG as like an ongoing moving forward basis. So they'll always be there. And also, likely maybe we can work on recruiting other young people that are maybe not necessarily a part of the JAG, but could also be in the pipeline to be JAG group members. And the idea is that, really Iowa has a really cool model that we heard about at CJJ. So, borrowing what we can from them and from others is the kind of way to go. I would like to highlight, and what I've heard in our research, I do think you all have the highest stipend payment for JAG members participating in JAG.
Thank you for that, Trista. One of the things that excites me is around the opportunity to create, to have, I don't know why I stuck with this word, hub of youth members. Right, that could really, that could be really sort of building up an expansion of a group of individuals that can really experience sort of the potentials of mentorship and professional development. I know we had a meeting with some of our youth members and they expressed a desire for some of that, right? To kind of see, especially as they lean into building their own careers in this set of work, that we also provide an opportunity for that this becomes a venue for that. So I'm excited by that component in particular of what used to be called the YAC.
My only question is, combining the two of the 200, 75 will still be specifically for the youth, and 125 will be for the interpretation.
So the whole, it'd be put into one whole pot, and the idea would be, it would still provide the support for the youth. And the idea would be is that the young people would, like the YAC, would be able to, part of the thinking was, and we're open, is $75,000 wasn't a lot of money for, the YAC to be able to present and really pull something off, especially when we look at like how much things cost now, so that the YAC wouldn't be constrained to the dollar amount. I'm so annoyed with myself saying YAC, but wouldn't be constrained to that necessarily small dollar amount and could pitch any idea for any dollar.
My only worry is that if
that is switch around the healing practitioner will come and take over, and then it would be one night for that, and then you would have 10,000.
Oh, there would be no healing the practitioner.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking that down, we're gonna take that down completely
Okay.
and reinvest the funds into this goal.
Okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
sorry.
Yeah, that's the key thing. It's,
Yeah.
these are dollars that already have been approved and earmarked.
Okay.
Now we are repurposing them. They don't necessarily are tied to what they were approved for. Now we're approving them for this.
This for 3 years.
I think we said 2, but
I think it's still, because it's tied to the strategic plan.
it's tied to the strategic plan, so,
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yep, 3 years, yep.
Thank you.
The one thing I just want to say, I think this is great, and I just want to make sure that whoever applies is aware that there are several other very robust youth advisory mechanisms currently in the state, right? There's the OCFS YAB, there is OMH is having a YAB, there's the Governor's Youth Council, there's Youth in Progress, and there's Brave Hearts, right? So there's a lot of youth voice out there, so not duplicating efforts and not also working in silos. I think would be really important, and that probably can just be written as the RFP, but I just want to lift that up, because we also want to make sure that we're not just getting the same kids who are on all of the other boards, right? And we also just hiring some youth advisors for youth development project. And making sure that there's some kind of for the young people embedded in this, so that they get paid for their.
I think it's good. I think what this says is, like people can come up with their own project and go and take the lead. So it's not just actually the voice of it is being informed and led, which is like the 360 of it. And I think that's different because what I have seen in the field, right, not just New York, but like that's across the country, is that people still just primarily just informed. And I guess I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think, but I'm excited about it. Do you have an age range for this group? Yeah.
So we have,
Okay. It's just not here. I don't see it.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking.
well, if we follow the age range that we have in place for kind of like the age range that kind of drives the JAG membership, right, for youth members would probably be driving
I'm
this
sorry, which is what? I should know that, right?
up to 28.
Up to 28,
But
but starting at 18?
You could, I mean, I think in terms of depending upon, I'm gonna say it's gonna be, you guys could say, yeah, we wanna do 16 to 18 or something, or 16 to 28 or 18 to 28. I do think whether the CBO that operates this and the ability to support people younger than 18, I just wanna be mindful of that.
Yeah, no, I just was wondering if there's an age range,
I think it would be great if, I mean, obviously, it's gonna depend on the agency that winds up getting this, but if we could get an agency that supports as low as 16, I think that would be really cool.
I wonder whoever gets the award to do this work, would they also, not just supporting them, coaching them, but would they be able to provide TA in a way?
Or you,
Yeah.
yeah, like what do you imagine in terms of like,
I don't know, I just feel like, TA is just so different, like, with that data collection, with those partnerships, with like, and I wonder how this organization, and I know that that's more like the RSP and the number of those that have going to engage. Like, it would be disappointing for me to see 100, 120, and just goes for like technical paying staff, and like, yeah, we need that, but also like, you need to create things for people to come together, to disseminate resources, hey, this is happening, hey, this, like just thinking more of that beyond supporting mentoring and coaching. Like if we're actually truly going to say,
we're going to develop their professional career, you know, like more, being more exposed to it. I was thinking about, you know, the YKI, so what can that be? Yeah, I'm just thinking of that.
Right.
For next time.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't make sense for the CBO to reinvent
Yeah.
the wheel of things that were already available, YJI or YJI can do that.
Yeah, that's what I was
Young
thinking.
people on this work. And then this way they start from, you know, the new stuff that needs to be developed. It's the money.
Shout out, Michelle, and just so everybody knows here, the YGI has recently, as of 6 days ago, hired a new youth empowerment specialist. We have a website for our PAC. Youth Advisory Council. Just recently, Jason was able to organically join the conversation that we have with our young people. So in order not to duplicate efforts and to help provide this technical assistance and professional development, I think this will be a good way to mesh, right? And get the young people to grow up together. Another thing that we're doing at the YGI is to grade, to use your term, the internship program that we have, the scholars with the peer advisory council members, so that we build from the ground up this relationship between potential researchers, policymakers, and folks with lived expertise. All that levels to be built together. So I'm excited for this. Thanks, Michelle, for raising.
Just maybe making sure that there's a job in partnership with the YJI, whoever wins. I'm just saying, I like the workforce kind of pipeline concept about how we can utilize these young people, because you need the workforce. And if we can interest the people, but also provide people with opportunities to
Yes.
be connected to things that they're interested in, you know, this is the youth advisory committee and they are saying, oh, we'd love to learn more information about, then the CBO can work with the JJAG or the DCJS to bring in a speaker or whatever, you know, we can create it, we can make it beneficial for them as much as they're beneficial to us.
Thinking about the upper age too, and thinking that we may want to have it at 26, just because I don't know that we want to be investing a lot into people who come in at 28, right? And then they're not so young. I guess not for nothing, I'm not so young, but you know, once you start bumping up to 30, right?
It's hard to call them a youth.
It is very hard to
Right,
call them a young person. You can be on the JJAG at 28, but you want some time to develop and support. So just
I agree, but also we gotta be reminded that also there are certain people that are coming from home at that age and their development, you know, like, and I think science is that your brain doesn't develop until you're 28, but also if it doesn't include any ACEs, what if, right? Prison is one of those things. So I want to say that it's a little bit hard to say. It comes from person to person. Some of those are ahead of others, some of them are not. You know, like, and I think like I always have this debate, like at the age of 21, people do not call me a youth, right? But you clearly see me because I still fall into that category. So I'm just saying, you know, like, and I hope we don't get into all of it, but like people develop at different ages, but also there are people that are coming home from that and spending years and years in it. And we want to be able to provide that opportunity because at 28 or 30, you might still be an emerging leader.
And just to add to that, I think at 28, it can still help with like the pipeline thing that we're trying to do. So if we're like pushing everybody out before they get to contact with the younger folks. So I think for the pipeline reasons, keeping it at 28 would be helpful.
Okay.
And I think I think the age piece is just some ways a placeholder, but I think the true priority is the pipeline piece.
Yeah.
The bringing the pathways, and because this should be a key opportunity for our members who are in that age bracket, that they're experiencing this as an opportunity to deepen their own sort of expertise, that some of it comes from their own lived experience, but now get to, you know, I see them as being the next generation that get to play in the system change work, right? They can't you know, we've got to reconfigure sort of what roles they get to play in changing the system as well.
And I think, Michelle, back to your point, right, they can do more than just inform. They're actually gonna be putting proposals forward for money to be spent on things that are youth-led. So, you know, we're talking about bringing experts into the room. Who are the experts in young people are the experts in young people. So I think that's also a huge, when we're thinking about this, is like them actually being able to bring proposals to the room to be voted on in the JAG, which makes it really, really powerful. When you talk about really having a voice and, you know, no longer, you know, power over the power actually.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of like age out of the system in a way, just because, so you're aging out of services and opportunities in a way. And maybe later on, we can dive into a conversation of what can it look like to engage people to be those leaders of support, the ones that are coming in.
Yeah, there are too many systems that do that to our kids, but yet they're not ready. Like they still, the systems didn't do enough to get them ready, right? Not to say that they're not ready, but the systems didn't do enough to get them ready. So, like, so, right, so I'm like this, like, again, another, like, we've got to really fix the system.
I think, I would just say that maybe we want to consider just changing the language as we speak about this moving forward to be, you know, youth and young adults or something. Because we're empowering them with a lot of power here and a lot of opportunity to make impact. And I think that we don't want to really put anyone in a circumstance in which they can be marginalized for. It can be ageism or the importance that this committee plays. And how much the community-based organization is a support to the young people, not directing the young people. It's the other way around. Young people are empowered and directed to do the work themselves.
It's a great point. I love, you're right, saying, call it young adults.
Yep.
Please change the name.
Yeah. Why, yeah? Why, yeah? Choose words, right?
Personal preference, because we end up with words are when
All right, could we get a motion to?
Wait, before
Oh,
we, well, the youth members, did the youth members not vote in this?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, you're a JAP member.
Okay,
You're a young adult.
all right.
Have lived experience? Is that the start?
I hope so.
That was a good
I
question.
mean, it's not a requirement of the JAG, to be clear. It is three people on the JAG have to have had lived experience. But young people, as part of the JAG, don't have to have lived experience. The way that we in New York have operated it is that we try to recruit young people who have lived experience or tangentially, like maybe a family member or they like community. But to be clear, for the JAG, it's not a requirement. So.
Yeah, and I was only asking because I was thinking about different names for it to help you out. And I
Yeah.
was thinking if they're required to have lived expertise, we're moving, I know in our system, we move from lived experience to lived expertise. So you can make it the experts advisory.
Yeah.
But that was, that's interesting. Okay.
We could still say experts.
No,
No, I'm just saying, I mean, we're about serving the youth, right? So I mean, we could still.
You still don't want to fight young.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know,
Which I don't.
so I mean, we could still get rid of the act and stop that.
Just trying to help you out.
I mean, this really isn't an advisory council
No.
anymore. This is really a capacity building endeavor. And maybe it should be.
Expert action council.
It look right, and it's not actually, it never was intended to be advisory either. It was action point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's youth action.
Yeah.
The proposal right now, is for the AC, the Action Committee, would be our new name that I sent out to our, other members. Yeah, we're just waiting to vote on it, but the Action Committee, the JAG AC would be the name. So that's our tentative name to vote on.
Love it. So basically, we're just catching up. We've been there all along.
We're not gonna be.
We're like slowly like, well.
Jason was waiting to see how this played out.
This is what they
Thanks for playing.
I like to say more experienced,
Yeah.
Even to Michelle's point, another thing that we're proposing is taking the youth out of our terms, because it speaks our age and things of that nature, and throwing in expertise and experience in there.
Right, young adult experts. Can I get a motion to approve the repurpose previously approved JJAC funding for youth, young adult members? A motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hands. Right. That's everybody, myself. All right, so it is approved that we are repurposing our dollars for our young adult expert council. I'm just throwing words in there, good action. Action, the action. Again, that's my game show, I'm getting words. All right, mini grants. Tristan, you're back on.
Yes. Okay, so, as outlined in the current JAG strategic plan, since it's been adopted and approved, we can call it that. There was a three-pronged approach in order to implement the priority areas. The large investments, which the JAG has already improved today in the Wi-Fi Center and the two justice hubs. And then also back to Michelle's comment earlier, the commitment to continue to fund direct service programming to support young people in their communities with an equity lens, both in terms of race identity and gender identity, but also in geography, urban versus rural. And so within the construct of developing those things, those two big ticket, awesome items, unfortunately are not going to be operational tomorrow, right? And we also know that we also come against lapse dates, and you all are very familiar with lapse dates, and wanting to make sure that we're fully expending our award, so we don't have underspending of our federal allocation. So one of the things we're proposing is this idea of, we call them mini grants. Maybe that's not the right terminology, but this idea of the JAG approving this mini grants for up to 10 mini grants a year for around $50,000. That would be available for direct service programming in the priority areas, so around mental health and trauma and healing and family and youth engagement, positive youth development opportunities has come up a lot too. And so initially, before you see $1 million, when we spoke with our procurement team, our folks in contract and funding. So we're gonna just do a slight pivot and say $500,000 for this year, and we may come back next year and ask for another $500,000. This just allows us to be able to get the money out the door, do bid requests, do T contracts, and helps us to get the money to the community as quickly as possible. And so that would be the idea. We could formulate a bid request, folks to give us, their ideas. Bid request would be in alignment with the priority areas that the JAG has identified. And then, we would do 1 year T contracts for up to $50,000 for up to 10 in the year.
Any discussion points? This is the one that's probably similar to Meredith. I'm like, okay, I'm wondering about this, and I think maybe it's I keep thinking, what can you do, what can whoever receives it can do with 50K,
Yeah.
right?
So
And that's my, in terms of, and I have to in some ways sort of scale the idea of what that is, right? Because it could be something very, very local, specific to the 3 priority areas that we have outlined. That could be very, so that's in my head. I have to imagine that that this set of dollars they're mini grants, so they could in some ways be some seed potential for sort of set of direct service work that may be happening.
So if I can make a parallel to some of, another big initiative that we have in the Office of Youth Justice is Project Rise, which is respond, invest, sustain, and empower for communities most impacted by, gun violence. And this idea of smaller grants to smaller grassroots organizations, smaller organizations who don't usually have access. And what they can do with small amounts of money is really kind of incredible. And so part of this, I think we would look at sort of how do we move into sustainability and help them, are there ways that we can help support them and build their capacity? It's one of the things we look at Rise, and capacity doesn't always necessarily, sustainability doesn't have to just mean more money. It can also mean how do we build the skills? How do we give them resources and tools to be able to get access to other funding or access to other things that they wouldn't maybe necessarily have access to. So that is also something, that we can be mindful of. As, if we come back for a year or two, we could say, hey, want to continue the program, and here's maybe some capacity building support that we might want to think about including, or that we will include to help ensure that occurs.
I think part of the reason, it sounds like a little because we're New York City babies, but, in, I think it was Syracuse, Joe, that the deputy mayor was like, this allowed us, to spend the regular dollars on other things, and so it was so helpful in Syracuse and Utica, they really made, it goes a long way compared to, the Bronx.
Yeah, and I can just say that my whole role here in Albany, the community, the $50,000 for the community-based organizations to be able to be like, all right, this is part of our strategic plan, to be able to get something in the community, whether it's training, whether it's community events, that actually goes far.
I also, when we were talking about this, I'm on the grants committee, general operating dollars, nobody gives general operating funds anymore for like keeping the lights on, toilet paper, right?
Right.
And when we were doing the gun violence tour three summers ago, one of the things that we heard consistently from organizations was since all of our grants are reimbursement based, right? When you require them to do a whole bunch of things, they have to outlay the cash first. Sometimes they don't even bother going after the money because they can't afford to spend it in the first instance. And that they don't have enough money for things like just general operating. So $50,000 for general ops for 2 years actually can make a huge difference in even letting the ED not be the one who also sweeps the floor and does the books, right? These are really critical dollars.
I think, because I have been doing a lot of switching to philanthropy and what's happened in the community. And one of the things that even general funding doesn't too often lead to wraparound services. And, not just the photo, but also like, shoes. You need to get with your family, like all of those things. And I do agree that this is so much needed, like actually. Yeah.
In some ways, that's what stuff we want to hear about, because I see the trajectory of seeing these mini grants as seed money for folks to do more work, to potentially do expanded work over time.
And the connection, like if they're near the hubs, how are they connected to the hubs? And then how do they connect with the YPAC Center to be able to produce more research for their programming, to go after other funding, to say, yes, we are, we're evidence informed, but here's our outcomes and here's our success and here's how we show it, right? And so I think there's ways to connect, make sure that it's all connected.
And I think so often we don't think about this, just having for an organization, 50,000 is in my, again, it's small, but it's sometimes too often it is also impossible for someone that don't get funding, but if you do get 50,000, or this JS or whatever organization, foundation, government agency support me, it also, and we need to talk a lot about how do we collect data and what data we're going after, because that's also an people talk to people, or you got funding for the agency, they're more likely to get funding somewhere else as well.
And you're talking about building trust in the community and government, right? Like, that's always a big thing, is that we know that there's been a lot of trust broken in those communities with government. This is another way to kind of support small or grassroots groups that have been paying for things out their pocket, or, without how they've been paying for it. So, you talk about, which I heard you say, DCGS Scott gave you that funding. You're starting to build this trust in these communities that haven't been there for years.
Can I get a motion to approve? I got a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Yes, I have. I'm sorry, I just keep kind of trying to count. I know. We have everyone raise their hand, so our mini grants are also approved. Yay. I know we get money out the door. And we're moving towards that. Exactly. We're like.
Oh, we have the quorum.
I know. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we got everybody here. Right. Our next one is Elevating Equity and Healing Conference 25 to 27. Krista, you are back on.
Be sick of hearing my voice.
Right, it's like a karaoke thing, okay? Come on, next song.
I just want to point out that I'm here presenting any of these things without the team who's not here right now, doing a variety of record learning things and working furiously on Project Rise right now. So I just want to acknowledge that I am presenting these. There's a whole team behind that is doing a lot of the work. So conference. Brendan, this is your fault, this proposal before you say, because at the previous JAG meeting, we discussed the Elevating Equity and Healing Conference that the JAG had supported previously, and that it was, I think, at the end of the month when we met last time, and it happens, and it was overwhelmingly successful for the first year out. I just want to give you a little bit of some statistics, and we do have a report that we can share out with all of you that the team created. But the Whova app, so apparently if you didn't know, Whova conference app, everybody loves it. And there was just so much interaction amongst participants as a result of that, versus just going to a conference and being in the room and then maybe things going away afterwards, which I also know was a concern for the JAG when you initially approved this funding. So within the context of that, there were 751 community board messages that were posted in the app as a result of the sessions that they participated in. And we had, within that, there were 771 private messages sent back and forth to folks who made new connections. Monique and I met and connected at the conference as well. There was 96 business cards exchanged. So just so many different connections that were made within the context of that. But beyond all that, in terms of like, was it useful and what folks got out of it, I really wanted to share a couple of things. Was, this is, you'll see these. So this is one of the attendee feedbacks was, this is super good and needed. It feels good to know that we are not the only ones fighting the good fight, and it feels good to see other people passionate and the tools being given for all of us to be successful. Another one said, this is Jerome Brown, he's on our team, but I'll say it too. For everybody, it doesn't seem like it's the first annual, but more like a long tradition, right? Because I think everybody did a great job in creating that sort of container and that environment. And the YJI's photo group was a huge success, and what healing and what equity mean to you. And then sort of just some of the, like a general sort of post-conference, we had 84 people post-conference survey. We did have over 450 people attend, but surveys are not usually well responded to, so we take 85 as a win. And one of the things I just wanted to one of the ones that I wanted to see was, it was a great event with a variety of topics that challenged the status quo and have been successful. There were so many opportunities, a beauty school program that works to address human trafficking. We had art programming that we are fortunate enough to be able to hang in our new space. We had so many things across the board that were just really successful. And the last thing I'll highlight is this is an awesome event. All the programs highlighted at the event were very informative and provided a lot of general information about how to assist youth and move forward. The event was a great place to network. I met so many people. The youth panel was awesome, and they knew how to capture the audience. They are being trained well to go out and speak humbly for themselves. That's a great program. So, we have a report that the team put together that we can make sure that we share with you all so you can see additional details. But I did just want to share that, this was not a one and done. I think we even have some statistics from HUVA about folks interacting post-conference. And on the microsite, we're working on the microsite to continue that conversation as well. So with that being said,
Can I just add?
yes,
I think
Commissioner, yes,
it's
please.
really important, because for those of you who have attended conferences in Albany for a long time, it was said by participants, but it was also, evident to us that it was the most people of color we ever had.
Yeah.
Convention. It was amazing, and people really felt that was a different environment.
Yeah.
So, definitely.
Yeah, it was an incredible environment, an incredible atmosphere, and no doubt that was a big contributor to that. And then Lieutenant Governor did record a video welcome for us, and the Commissioner spoke, and Lisa spoke her presentation on the elephants, most of the room and how to move forward, and they had to talk, folks were curious about this too. They did have a talk to action panel where folks were asked to identify action items, and I'm speaking for the YJR, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. They had to fill out postcards, and the YJR mailed them to the folks who completed out their action items as a reminder of what they said they were going to do at the conference. So the ask here is for the JAG to continue to support that conference for the next 3 years. We did publicly state that we would definitely bring it back next year, and we're already looking at when that could potentially happen and what that would look like. So it's $100,000 per year. It would support costs like the team is fantastic, and I don't want them all to quit, so an event coordinator would be really helpful for the team. It would cover the cost of the venue, and it would cover any costs that might be needed for presenters to come and stay and to present, and any sort of things that are impacted there. Youth support, if you need support to attend, and stipends to attend, and things of that nature. Federal funds can't pay for food, which was a big portion of our expenses for last year's conference. So that's not reflected here, but we underspent on the original investment, so we do believe $100,000 a year would be sufficient. That's it. That's all I have.
I see the potential of this also being a place where the hubs can come as well. That's to come. Folks who are getting mini grants.
Yeah, we have
Everybody. Yeah.
we have people already asked, we have people leaving the conference saying, hey, I want to present next year. Can you make sure that, and we issued a request for proposals for people to present, and we had overwhelming response. We added an extra breakout session so that we could add 5 additional speakers, just because we felt like we couldn't, cut certain proposals out. And so there's a strong desire and a strong place for people wanting to share their work too.
Amazing. That's great. The discussion points.
Hope I bring it next year. I was on vacation.
We were asked not to do conferences at the end of March, the end of the state fiscal year, so we will be mindful of that.
All right, could I get a motion to approve the Elevating Equity and Healing Conference for years 25 to 27?
So that was the problem.
Second over here, all right. All in favor? Raise your hands. All right, everyone raise their hands. So the Elevating Equity and Healing Conference is approved by Jack. All right. Next is,
But I want to say, I'm just gonna put this up for the record that I mentioned it ahead of time this time. I waited to the very last minute, and I think I said, do you need any support from like OMH or any of our people or anything related to the fostering healing part of your conference? And he was like, oh, we'll just promote I think it was really late, so he was like, here's the, you sent me the applying for the proposals. But regarding like tabling or sharing of information, is there anything that you need on the fostering healing side that you think we could be of help with at OMH? Because we have a trauma technical assistance center or whatever.
Yeah.
Let me know and I will plan it ahead of time. I'll be more thoughtful next time to
Yeah,
offer that earlier.
thank you. There was no, this year, in lieu of tabling, what we did, we, actually YJI Scholar, then presented their research that they had actually been working on in the lobby, and then anybody who wanted to give out materials, we added them to the conference materials packet. So everybody got those, as well as we could upload things into the app. Like any handouts or any information into the app that is available 3 months. Moving forward.
Well, if you'll get the pens and stress ball, you know, or something like that.
I mean,
without stuff, right?
I love it.
As you're planning, just put it in the back of your mind, because I asked way too late last time and I felt really guilty.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll definitely keep that in mind.
Perfect.
And, we'll
Put it on the radar.
wonderful. And, all right, the last item under new business, Best Youth Initiative. I think it's a trio, Tom and Jason.
I'll just tee it up quickly and then turn it over to Nina and Jason. I mean, this stands for the Building Ecosystems for Thriving, Best Youth Initiative, and it's a 3-year effort to facilitate state-based and cross-sector collaboration and improve outcomes for youth. It's led by the Forum for Youth Investment, and it will be kicked off in DC at the end of July. OCFS is the lead. And Jason is also participating. So I'll just turn it over to them to kind of expand.
Yeah, thank you. We're very excited. This was a competitive process for states to apply, and only one applicant per state was allowed. We had to attest that nobody else was applying in the state of New York. So to our knowledge, nobody did. So we were good. And the Forum for Youth Investment is really the premier youth development, positive youth development organization in New York. And we're actually doing separate work with them around refreshing positive youth development in New York State. We partnered with DCJS and SED as the primary partners, and narrowed the focus down to something actionable, which is really important to us, which is to really focus on the process of re-entry into schools for young people who either are coming back from a justice placement or from hospitalization, or who even just a long-term self-imposed absence, or who have been suspended, or young people who are entering a new school because of a move from foster care or even homelessness. That process stinks. I mean, to welcome young people back, it's often punitive if the young people have been problematic in the school before. So we're trying to leverage the youth pods potentially. If they're within the same sort of areas as some of the schools are, we're looking at the 9 schools that are the feeder schools that have the most kids that are in OCFS custody. We thought that was a good sort of proxy for schools that are struggling with a lot of kids, coming in and out. And we're really looking at how to infuse positive youth development, restorative practice, which SED has spent a lot of money and time training schools on, but there hasn't always been the uptake and the application of restorative practices to really improve young people's reattachment to school. I mean, right now, for people who don't know right now, often what happens if a kid comes home at the wrong time, which is really sometimes any time, frankly, the school will provide 2 hours of tutoring a day in the home. Or if a kid has had a suicide attempt and can't come back into the school until they've been cleared, which is a whole other questionable mess. They also offer that, which is, it's just a terrible response. And it creates the conditions for recidivism and school, permanent school detachment. We're very excited. We have a lot of young people, and I'll give it to Jason to talk to. We've got some adults with lived experience joining us. It's a great team. We've got folks from DCJS, folks from OCFS, folks from SED, and we have partnership support from OMH, support from DOL as well. I'm not sure what we need from them, but Chris White's always a great partner. And we got support from somebody else. But Jason, did I miss anything?
They're really big on youth empowerment. They sent out a whole 4-page folder about the role of the youth inside of the program throughout the 3 years for the program. I believe each state team has 3 youth members. And then we act as an advisory council towards the state for the program. At some point throughout it, we each have to recruit 3 more members who are youth, who will also act as advisory members to all of us. The council is going to get us together. I think it said about 3 or 4 times in person and meet per year to convene and go over everything. I'm looking forward to it. It seems one of the strongest youth pushing programs that I've seen since my term on the JAG.
We're excited that you were willing to jump in. Sort of, the whole thing was a little bit of a scramble. They gave us like 3 weeks to apply. It was crazy. They're like, wait, you need all these people. We're like, and we're excited. We have some folks from our youth advisory board as well, and maybe 2 from our youth advisory board on foster care side. So we're very excited to try to tackle this with SED because this has just been a long-standing issue. And if we can even get 5 out of the 9 schools, we're not even looking at districts, we're looking at schools to start working on bettering this process. I think that we can have a really big impact.
What does SED call these students? They have a name for them coming back.
Returning students or
Sometimes disconnected.
She was just talking about it on some call that was on. Because I think she had a big idea in the budget and it didn't make it through. People really didn't understand the population.
Are you talking about the justice school idea, the hybrid school?
Yeah, the hybrid.
Yeah, that's totally
different.
different. This is about young people going back to your home school who want to come back, right? Who have maybe been in a CFS facility, who have been in a residential treatment center, and getting schools to appropriately welcome a young person back into the community and say, you are part of us, is a huge lift. Eddie, if you have any thoughts.
I'm just thinking about, there's school districts that I work with in New York State where, thinking about a school district in the middle of the state, I shall make the same name. Because I remember visiting and I happened to walk into the library, public library of the town where somebody wanted to show me the program where kids who were coming back from detention centers who were coming back to the school, they had to be in this tutoring in the library with adults were in some ways pulled out of the classroom for their ineffectiveness, but yet we're taking on this role
Fabulous.
of bringing the kids back.
Teachers.
Yeah. And I said, this is not the right step for this type of, and this transition just does not work. But this is part of their transition plan, right? And so the around, what are the ways in which school districts have constructed these transition plans predicated on the idea of, well, in some ways, it's really like, let's still keep these kids away. Because we just don't know how well they are for us, right? And I love that sort of the idea of starting small with schools to really disrupt that.
And the secret goal is to then infuse the, I always have secret goal, is to infuse the disciplinary process, to really rethink the disciplinary process, to really fully be restorative and to not cause the disruption to begin with. And go from discipline to accountability, restoration.
Right.
You know, that's a longer.
And it needs to be called a support system, not a discipline system.
And, I think there's the equity piece in it, right? Like, because we have to look at that as well. This proportionality of the students who we're talking about are coming home, right? And so we want to be able to make sure we're looking at that. And I think, in the partnership as we were thinking about it, talking about it is, we're doing Project Rise and Snug and these people who are present messengers or in the community who are grassroots organizations that have different relationships with these young people where they can help support some of these young people also coming back into these spaces as well. It might be non-traditional, or we haven't looked at in the past.
Family opportunity centers, CLS and SED, co-funded. So there's a lot of synergy work. We're really hoping that.
And this is a July convening that I heard?
End of July.
Oh, end of July.
It's the kickoff.
It's a kick- oh, okay.
And we have TA for 3 years. Board.
Well, and if those 9 schools don't have school-based mental health clinics already, they can partner and get money from the hubs of mental health to create resources. We can figure out identifying opportunities for them as well.
Yeah.
And clinics now can also pay for and reimburse for family care who can actually be working at schools as well.
Great.
So just like oh.
Thank you so much for letting us know about it. We can't wait, I think part of what you all are sharing here is also some of what we've talked about in terms of layering into our meetings opportunities to really hear about some of this work that's happening, to create sort of some of these sort of cross-pollination opportunities, but also I think especially given sort of all the stuff that we just approved, that is with all these dollars that are literally, they're running out the door right now, right? That's what I mean. Means that where are the opportunities for us to hear about it as they're developing? And I want to make sure, I'm glad that we've had an opportunity to kind of hear about this being a last-minute endeavor, but yet it has great potential, but I think it also hearing this reminds us we need to talk about more of this.
And I just, Giza reminded me that the YJ PAC did a Hail Mary review of the, I think we gave them 35 minutes or something to the application. Just, I mean, literally, we were all scrambling to say, does this ring true? Right? Is there anything here that is just false? So thank you.
Well, given the speed, it was very well done. And I think what was great about it is you had pre-existing pieces to pull from that just all came together in a really nice way.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for those pieces, I would have been more challenged.
We probably would have made it.
No, so I was very interested. Yeah, no, I like that we're also sharing information. And for the future, OMH is happy, I'm happy to share information on new initiatives or things that are happening. Obviously, we've gotten a lot of money recently, which is totally out of the ordinary. So I don't want to give trust in the mouth, but last year we got $1 million, and this year we got some additional money to support youth mental health services, which again, I don't remember any money like that since 2007. So very, very exciting. We're doing some exciting things. One of the things that our commissioner is very progressive, and she's really saying if a kid has a mental health challenge, they're our kid too. And so while the Office of Mental Health has never excluded any child from receiving mental health services, whether they have a co-occurring disorder of substance use or developmental disability, and or on their other systems involvement status, meaning child welfare and juvenile justice, there's myths out there about what kids can access and what kids can't access. And so we're trying to really do a very proactive approach of developing partnerships and really outreaching to engage and be more purposeful around kids in juvenile justice and diversion or receipt of mental health services, so I'd be happy to talk about that at a future meeting as well.
That'd be great.
Because we're calling it out, because people seem to think sometimes they're excluded, but they're not, and they should be. And then we're empowering our providers to be, or, I don't want to say empowering, but giving them tools in which to do better with those populations as well, with some training and support, so.
You're in the queue. Before I request for adjournment, I wanted to give an opportunity. I know Giza had some new folks that she wanted to introduce to our.
Thank you, Eddie. So first, thank you all for the continued support for the YJI. I want to share with you that presentation that we did, that you mentioned on the youth snapshot, is now a website with interactive data. So if you haven't received it, we'll be sure to send it to you. But what I really would like to do is to introduce to you our amazing new team members. The YJI used to be small and mighty. We are mightier than ever, and we are growing thanks to your support and the support of the CJS since January. So I'll start with Amy. If you want to introduce yourself, that's on to Amy.
Hi, I'm just going to stand up. Amy Seafloor. I was previously the supervisor of Warren County Probation, and I have over 18 years of experience of probation work in Alaska and the state of New York. I'm really excited to join the YJI as of 2 weeks ago. Monique and I joined together on the same day, and it's been a very interesting and fun time for us. So we're very excited to be included, and it's been amazing to just observe this team at its best. I've been here for different reasons over the years, many different reasons, and it's nice to be part of this, the YJI team. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lamie Taylor. I think he said we both started June 3rd, which was also my son's 7th birthday. It's a blessing to be here. I just want to say thank you, and thank you to Jesus. Not only hiring me, but the opportunity to be here. She told me to be brief, so I'll be as brief as I can. Today was a good day for me, and a special day to kind of like be in the presence of you all, watch this game unfold. I was born and raised in Albany. I was a system impacted kid since the age of 15. My mother struggled with schizophrenia, and my father was incarcerated. So hearing me conversate and discuss and dive into the way in which we can help youth dealing with a wide variety of issues when they get to the point of to continuously be placed in and out of the system is extremely important for me. So that's why I think that. Just knowing that it's not often that individuals in this community really understand what goes on behind the scenes. So they don't have that hope, they don't have that faith, and they can't establish that level of trust. So that's another reason I'm it's an honor to be here. On any future collaborations that we have.
So I'm not as new. I joined in February. I'm Genevieve Linden, the director of research at YJI. So I came from about 10 years in academia doing research. All this talk about conceptualization and data and collaboration is right in my house.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and welcome to, and this is what we are. We have forums like this all the time.
Stuff like this all the time.
With that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn? I got a first, I got a second. All in favor? Everybody raise their hand. And so we are adjourned. It's a reminder, our next meeting is October 2nd in a new location in White Plains. Right? In Westchester County. So I look forward to you all. Okay. So enjoy your summer, whatever you get to do this summer. Hopefully it includes some type of break and relaxation and the sun or hiking or whatever you do. Enjoy it. Good night. You take care. I know, I was like.
Oh,